Greetings, fam. I'm just trying to edit the post, trying to make it public so that it can be shared. Okay, got it. Save. All right. Now let me get back to StreamYard. Click on comments. So what I'm trying to do is wait a few minutes to get started because I would really like to have a few viewers on to kind of engage and talk about what I want to talk about. Okay. For some reason, it won't let me go live on the Read Black with Me page. Don't know what that is about. So I'll just take it off right now. But I am live on Facebook and YouTube. So if you are um, don't like to watch on Facebook or you don't like to watch on YouTube, you can do either or. All right. So I wanted to just start off by remembering and honoring an ancestor. So yesterday, if you saw my post, you saw that it was my father's day. He was born June 11, 1945 in Montrose, Arkansas. He served in the military for a short time and he came back, moved to Little Rock for a little while after he and my mom married and went to barber school, and then they were part of the Great Migration. So if you don't know what the Great Migration is, you should look it up because there were actually two waves of the Great Migration. One was in the very early 1900s, right after emancipation, where Black people migrated north to find a better life from the thick racism, overt racism in the South. And so a lot of people went to Chicago, Philadelphia, Harlem. Um, my family uh, just so went to Milwaukee, and that is both my maternal family and my paternal family. Both migrated to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. In fact, my sister and I were born in Milwaukee, and then my dad decided to move back south because of the the rigid temperatures and just things in that were so different from the life he had grown accustomed to. So we moved back south, and at first I didn't understand it, but now that I've aged and become an adult, I thoroughly understand it, and I'm thankful that he had the foresight and wisdom to move us back to that little town of Montrose, Arkansas, where I grew up in a safe community. I grew up in a village and had wonderful experiences that shaped my life, and I'm thankful that I have good memories as well. So it also has played a factor in my memory bank to have grown up in such a loving community, loving family, loving village. So today I want to talk a little bit about an ancestor that was born June 12th, 1927 here in Mississippi. Here, as you can see, the screen, it has Clyde Kennard, a slow, calculated lynching. So Clyde Kennard was born in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And if you are familiar with the state, you know that that's down in the southern portion of the state, and it houses the University of Southern Mississippi, USM. And so that's where he was born. But then he would move to Chicago uh, when he grew up a little bit as a little boy so that he could attend school. He moved to Chicago, lived with his sister for a while, and then he attended the University of Chicago. But then he also served in the military. He fought in the Korean War. He came back. He settled back in Chicago, But then their mother, she had an illness, and he decided that he would move back to Hattiesburg to take care of his mother. And so while he was in Hattiesburg, he applied for admission to the University of Southern Mississippi. It wasn't named the University of Southern Mississippi at that time. I forgot what it was, but he wanted to finish his, studies that he had started in Chicago, and he applied in 1956, 1957, and 1959. And this was right, during the battle, the heat of Brown versus the Board of Education, where uh, segregation was ruled unconstitutional and all schools were ordered to desegregate. So there was some that desegregated peacefully. And y'all, if you know me, you know I'm a strong advocate of knowing the difference between integration and desegregation and assimilation. So desegregate means that we will just allow you in our facility. That's it. That's just like somebody saying, okay, you can sit here at this table, but you got to leave all your stuff over there. So integration would have meant that we would have brought over some of our customs, culture, heritage with us, but we did not. So not only did we desegregate these spaces, we assimilated as well. So we had to take on the customs and the culture of someone else's, not our own. But anyway, so the Brown versus the Board of Education was coming down the pike. Well, it had already been ruled in 1954, right? And so also this all ties in together. That's why I'm so fascinated by history, especially Black history, our story, because when we know our story, what's going on now would not be a surprise, would not be something that we would be shocked about. We would just see that it's something that's being recreated and redefined and rebranded as something new. But if you don't know your story, you won't know that. So anyway, so keep in mind, he has applied for admission to USM, Southern Miss, in 1956, 1957, and 1959. Brown Board of Education decision was in 1954. But guess what? February 10th, 1950, February 10th, 1950, Mississippi Valley State University was founded. And so Mississippi Valley, Valley, what I just call it, what we call the Valley, was founded in 1950. So this is in Itabena, Mississippi, right in the heart of the Delta, and it was founded to deter black people from seeking admission to University of Southern Mississippi, right? So this whole HBCU was created in the Delta so that these black folks would not seek admission to Southern University, right? Southern Miss. So anyway, so he kept applying and he kept getting denied, and he was people tried to persuade him to apply for admission to another college, to a private institution. They even offered to pay his tuition if he would just stop applying to USM. But he was right there in Hattiesburg, taking care of his mother. So I know a lot of us would say, man, he just should have went somewhere else. Why couldn't he go anywhere else? Well, for him, that was not an option because his mother needed to be taken care of, but he also wanted to finish his education. So why shouldn't he be granted that right? So, and while he's doing the honorable thing of taking care of his mother. So he would go on and he would continue. He would not be deterred. So a plan was set into motion to set him up for a crime he did not commit, and he would go on and be convicted and sentenced to, I think it was 7 years in parchment. So if you know anything about the state of Mississippi and the penal system, you know anything about Parchment Prison Farm, you know that it still is, because it's still in existence. It's a brutal place. All penitentiaries run by the state mostly are. So he was sentenced to 7 years at the Parchment Prison Camp. While he was there, he was diagnosed with colon cancer, And he was at the hospital, and they told the prison officials that he needed to, spend his days being taken care of. He was a sick man, but they denied that, and they brought him back to Parchment, where he would work. Yeah, they know this man is dying of cancer, and they know he did not commit a crime. But anyway, they basically worked him until they couldn't get anything else out of him, and then they granted him parole. They did not pardon him; they granted him parole, and so he was released from prison, and he would go on and transition a few months later. So I came across this ancestor. Y'all know I'm a librarian, and I add the books to the library's collection by inputting the data in a call cataloger. So this book came across my desk, and I was fascinated with the story. I have not read the book yet. As you can see, the forward is written by James Meredith, another person that is quote famous for trying to desegregate all white institution. James Meredith would go on. He would succeed in his fight. But anyway, so I'm going to read this. This is on my read list. A slow, calculated lynching, because they did. They, the state of Mississippi, and key individuals, you can look them up and learn how he was convicted of a crime he didn't commit, and then they had the audacity to exonerate him after years after his death. But I don't know how I feel about that, because you've already made this man suffer, because he suffered. He died from colon cancer, and he was sent back to work while he was battling this illness. And so that is Brother Clyde Kennard, right here, born right here in Mississippi, in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, on this day, June 12th, 1927. So just look up and learn more about our ancestors, and learn that the things, learn about them, learn what they did, learn the battles they fought, learn about whose shoulders that we stand, because we we have some great ancestors and some great examples from which to learn from. All right. So that's brother Clyde Kennard. And now, so I wanted to talk a little bit about Juneteenth, because a lot of Juneteenth celebrations are happening this weekend. Some happened last weekend. Some will be going on next weekend, as Juneteenth is next Wednesday, the 19th. And the scholars, the last book we read as a group was the Juneteenth story. So y'all can see I'm here at the Cultural Center. I'm sitting right in front of the Sankofa Shop retail space. And if you are interested in purchasing this book, just let me know. It's only $10, and it is full of great information. We had to read like 8 pages at a time, 8 pages a week. And then we had lessons for some of the vocabulary that is included in the book. So the scholars would look up different words that we weren't familiar with in the text, and we would come back the following week and talk about those words, use them in sentences. And it wasn't just uh, like words like descriptions like adjectives and nouns. It was also people. So we looked up Frederick Douglass. We looked up what is an abolitionist. What is an abolitionist? We looked up brutal, like one of the words to describe the work that our ancestors entailed was brutal. What does brutal mean? Right? And so we looked up emancipation, we looked up enslaved, we looked at the Confederate States, and we actually had a lesson where we went in and we looked at those 7 states that were part of the Confederate, right? And so they saw in relation, because some of us live in those states, right? Mississippi, Georgia, Texas, some of us live in these states, right? So that was interesting discussion, because we not only had the scholars talking and discussing, the adults, the parents, we have our discussions as well. And so this was a really good book. We also incorporated some math lessons in there. We had, math lessons like If the Emancipation Proclamation was written in 1865, how many years ago was that? So, what function are you going to use to find out how many years ago that happened? And so, we had those discussions as well. And so, one of the things that we learned was right after emancipation, right after they came and read the news to the Texas, those enslaved in Texas, the first celebrations were, it was called Jubilee Day. It wasn't Juneteenth. It was called Jubilee Day. And so we had a discussion around, should we go back to Jubilee Day, because now Juneteenth has been, quote, signed into law and it's a federal holiday. So how can we take it back? Because a lot of us feel like, somebody else is saying, okay, now you have a day, da da da. It's not ours. So one way we can take it, quote, black, is to go back to saying it's Jubilee Day. Let's celebrate Jubilee Day. And then we also learned that during the Jubilee Day, uh, the formerly enslaved, they put their money together and they bought some land in Texas, in Houston, Texas to be specific. They bought a piece of land in Houston and they created a park, and it's Freedom Park, and it's still there to this day. So it goes on to explain how it became Juneteenth instead of Jubilee Day. We learned about the Texas Centennial Exposition, and this happened in 1936, and where they had created a museum with all type of black scholars, inventors, kind of like the Culture Center, right? But it was even bigger. And so this was in 1936. Y'all, this book, then it talks about um, how Juneteenth spread throughout the country. So as people started migrating north in different parts of the country, that's how we have the Juneteenth festivities happening throughout the United States. And so now that, like I said, it's a holiday, we need to start thinking about how we can take it back and how we can make it more significant. But this is an excellent book. If you want to, again, order it so that your family can have a great, thorough history, a thorough story of how it happened for us, I would highly recommend this. I was kind of iffy about it at first because it is so wordy, but we broke it down and we had some really, really great discussions. My sister's like, this book is full of information, and it certainly is. So let me know if you would like to purchase a copy, because your support helps support the Read Black With Me program and Ashe Academy. So that is the Juneteenth story. I highly, 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 highly recommend this book to read as a family. Greetings, Sister Mila. I'm glad that you came on. Just talking a little bit about Juneteenth today and why we need to continue our story on our terms, right? I know last year, I think it was last year, I posted, because I had found this really interesting article on the first Jubilee Day celebrations. And I was really fascinated with the story of why red is woven throughout the celebrations, or the early celebrations. Red symbolizes the blood of our ancestors. And so these Juneteenth celebrations, these Jubilee celebrations would incorporate red food and red drink, watermelon, red Kool-Aid, red velvet cake. And so I had a brother come in my inbox and he said, well, what type of red food and drink will you be incorporating in your Juneteenth celebrations? And so I was like, that's something to think about besides watermelon, right? And especially for those of us who try to eat a little bit different, eat a little bit better. We don't want the barbecue because, the barbecue can be red too, right? And so he made me think about that. I was like, okay, of course, watermelon. And then I thought about cherries. What about some cranberry juice, some kind of cranberry juice punch or something like that to drink? And then I referred him to a book that we have here at the Sankofa Soul Shop. This is a cookbook for Juneteenth and Black celebrations. Watermelon and Redbirds. And so it's written by Nicole Taylor, and she has different ideas that you can use. And different recipes that you can incorporate into your Juneteenth celebrations. She has a margarita here. Hey, so some strawberry daiquiris might be good to have. And then just a little bit about her journey into celebrating Juneteenth. So yeah, and she has a few. I'm looking at the pictures. Some good recipes that you can incorporate into your Juneteenth celebrations. Incorporate that color red, right? So I think I'll make a post about this book because I think it's a good one to incorporate into your celebrations. Watermelon and Redbirds. All right. And then I wanted to share a book that Brother Obafemi made me aware of. He asked me had I heard of it, had I read it, and I had not. So I immediately went to the public library. Y'all, I'm a huge advocate for the public library because they are not only funded by our tax dollars, but they have access to a wide range of books. And I know in our library, in our public library system here in Northwest Mississippi, if they don't have it, they have collaborated with libraries throughout the state that if they don't have it, they can interlibrary loan it from another library. In fact, I have two books from Mississippi State that I borrowed from the public library. But anyway, so I got this book from the public library, and I'm probably going to end up buying it for myself because it's such a great story. And I think it would be a great family read, a great way to have a discussion with your children about our culture. And the book is Sankofa, a culinary story of resilience and belonging. And this is by Brother Eric Ajipong. I don't know if I'm butchering his name or not, but Sankofa. It is a really interesting book about a young man. I think his name is Kofi. Yes, Kofi. And his family is from Ghana. And it's just a story about bringing culture into the classroom. So his teacher wanted them to bring a dish to represent their culture uh, for a potluck. And so he was conflicted. And I think this is a great way to start having a discussion with your children because I think our children are conflicted. Those who attend the public school systems, they are in but live, a life where we try to teach them about our culture and heritage. Is what Brother Patrick calls the paradox. And so I think this will be a good book to start talking about our culture and our heritage with our children, just to get the story, just to introduce them, lay the foundation if you have not already, instead of like when holidays come up. I know I tend to kill kids. We don't celebrate that, but we got to have more than that. Of course, I always teach her. I'm constantly teaching her and talking about Kwanzaa, Juneteenth, and the other days that we celebrate. But we still have to have more than that. We have to tell them why it's so important to retain our heritage and culture. So Sankofa is a great book. It is a wonderful book to read as a family. And I like to say it all the time, encourage your children to read to you. So that's one reason why we have the Read Black with Me after school reading program, because our children love to read out loud and they like for us to listen and be engaged in what they are reading. So have your children read some of the passages to you. Take turns reading with your children, with your family, right? So, yeah, I encourage you to check it out from your public library if you don't want to buy it. But I'm going to buy it because it's a great book. It's a great story on how to bring heritage and culture into your space, especially if your children are in the public school system. So, yeah, this one is good. And I want to thank Brother Obafemi for recommending this book. Totally love it. Totally love it. All right. Let's see. Also, this month, I'm so excited, so excited because I made a post about this book that I have started reading, And a couple of sisters came to me and asked me, could we read it as a group? And I'm excited about it because it's a discussion that even Sister Mila and I have had for some time about Black women and our conduct. Because it says that if the African proverb says that if you teach a man, you teach an individual, but if you teach a woman, you teach a nation, right? And so we're going to be reading this book by Sister Asada Fatu. I don't want to butcher her first name, but this is Makaru, and this is a Black woman's code of conduct. So we're going to be breaking it down into sections because when I looked at the contents, I'm like, oh no, this is not going to be discussed in one setting. Cannot be discussed in one setting. So my cousin and I were having a conversation when she was visiting me last week, and she was like, yeah, Crystal, I know that it's going to have to be broken down into sections because in chapter 4, they're like 1, 2, 3, 4. They're like 8 uh, steps or 8 principles in the code of conduct, right? A Makaru woman with herself, a Makaru woman with her sister, a Makaru woman with her brother. And so I think that all that needs to be broken down and taken slowly because now we are not just reading for ourselves. Of course, we want to be better women. We want to evolve and age gracefully into that woman that's going to be the role model for future generations. So we need to take it slow so we can absorb we need, right? And so and we can learn how to display it and teach it in a righteous manner, right, to our younger sisters and our daughters that are coming along. And so that is just what I try to do as I age. I try to age gracefully so that I could be a role model for future generations because whether we want to accept it or not, like Dr. Francis Cress Wilson taught us that the mother is the first teacher, right? The woman is the first teacher. Mr. Farrakhan says that a nation can rise no higher than this woman. So we have to set a standard for ourselves and move accordingly so that we can ensure the survival of our people. Sister Sylvia, thank you for tuning in. Caribou, I just want us to be readers, thinkers, and doers, and especially our children. We have a Brother Patrick likes to say, when we talk about resources, we need to look at us as our people resource as well. So we have a beautiful resource in our children, and that's why I'm so adamant in teaching our children how to read, not like the phonetic part of it, but how to read, how to take out those nuggets, how to absorb and be uh, critical in our thinking, right? And how to apply the knowledge, how to uh, take what you need, and if you don't need that anymore, do something else, right? uh, and then how, because a lot of times I get frustrated because we want to be so very critical of our ancestors and our elders. But I would say this: they acted out of courage. Some things they did not know, but they thought it was for the best. So now that we can look at them and assess what they did, we need to take what didn't work and move it over there, but take what worked and build upon it. We have the knowledge, but do we have the courage? We have the knowledge, but do we have the courage? And so that's why I always share our great ancestors because I'm telling you, they did some mighty, mighty works with limited knowledge and limited resources, right? Okay, so I talked about Juneteenth, the book, Juneteenth story. Get a copy if you don't. Get a copy of Sankofa if you don't. And attend some Juneteenth celebrations. I'm going to share a few with you. If you are in the uh, Northwest Mississippi area, this one is happening this Saturday. This is the Juneteenth celebration. Oh, let me go back. I don't want to share that one first. I want to share the earlier one first. Sorry about that. Here it is. This one is happening here in Coldwater. So this is from 7 to 5. And they're going to be starting with a walk, Freedom Mile walk, run if you want. I don't think I will be running. I'll just be walking, right? But that's a two and a half mile walk. And then they'll have a program right after that. So I will be speaking. Sister Karen called me and asked me if I would participate, but I had already committed to another event. But she told me that I could be on first at the program. So if you're in town and you want to come hear a word from me, I will be speaking at this event here in Coldwater, Mississippi, and that is going to be over at the community center on North Street. If you don't aren't familiar with the town, it's not a very large town. So if you're just riding around, you can't miss it because you'll see all the cars parked. So that's the first event that I will be attending. So after I finish up there, then I will be going to this event in Holly Springs. So this is the fourth annual Juneteenth celebration in Holly Springs. They'll be having a parade at 12 o'clock, and then they'll be having the program from 1 to 5, and it'll be vendors, food trucks, speakers, and yeah, I will be speaking again. I'm on the program to speak at this Juneteenth celebration in Holly Springs Saturday. And Holly Springs, y'all know that's my one of my favorites. That is her territory, Ida B. Wells territory, Ida B. Wells country, Holly Springs, Mississippi. And as you can see, the guest speaker will be Tammy Gibson, who is an African American historian. And this will be outside around the square at the court, well, at the courthouse on the square. And so I'm looking forward to that event. This will actually be my fourth year participating in the Juneteenth program in Holly Springs. So I'm very, very excited about that. Sponsored by some good people, the Lesters, Rolanda and Antoine Lester. So if you are in the area, please make plans to join us. And then the following week, the 19th, 20th, and the 21st, I forgot to download the flyer, but there will be a 3-day event going on in Greenville, Mississippi. So that's over there in my neck of the woods, Greenville over in the Delta. And I will probably be posting that information as well. So they're going to be having festivities the 19th, 20th, and the 21st over in Greenville, Mississippi. So just be on the lookout for our Juneteenth events in your communities, in your spaces, and attend. Help us celebrate our day. Because if we don't, somebody else will take it and do what they want with it. And we don't want that, right? We don't want that. We want to control our days and control the celebrations and control the narrative, especially control the narrative. All right. So I hope to see some women on with us. I'll be announcing when we're going to be discussing the book, right? So if you can, I'll leave the link in the comments again so that you can purchase the book. This is a phenomenal book, and I'm having to read it very slow because, as I said, I want to absorb as much as I can so that I can be a vessel to share the work and be a role model. All right, so that's all I have for today. Trying to think. This is about what I'm reading. Oh, and I want to finish up this book too, High on the Hog by Mama Jessica B. Harris. And I started this book back in January, preparing myself for a foodways presentation that I did for Black History Month. And it's a really fascinating story. Uh, I had started the book some time ago and I didn't finish it. But in the meantime, the docu-series came on Netflix. And I was like, the first season, I watched like 3 times because it was so good. And I was just mesmerized by Mama Jessica. I was like, man, when I'm up there in that age, I want to be just as graceful as she is because I think she's a gracefully powerful elder, and we can learn a lot from her. Greetings and power, Sister Mary. Yes, Sister Sylvia. We had the knowledgeable. Do we have the courage? Whew. Yes. I just keep saying that because um, a lot of times we'll look at our elders and our ancestors critically, so critically, especially like when it came to not speaking up or not registering or not doing this or not doing that. But I'm telling you, we got a situation going on right here in Tate County in the Senatobia area, and which involves the police department. And a lot of people won't get involved because they don't want, their supervisors, their friend, or whatever to know that they are in this fight because of fear. You know, they don't want to lose their job, they don't want to lose their assets, things of that nature. So, is it really a difference? Um, what is fear? Fear is courage courage? Does it matter what day and time it in? Day and time is in? And I said at the beginning, if you don't know your story, then you'll think, oh, this is something new. So, why we want to be critical of our ancestors and our elders. What the heck are we doing? Because really, when you boil all the fat off of it, ain't nothing changed. Ain't nothing changed. And so we just have to be more critical when we look, and we have to really look at stuff. I mean, really look in it, not just at it, look in it. Pay attention. Pay attention, and you will see that the more things change, the more they stay the same. So anyway, I'm gonna get off here. I thank y'all all for tuning in, and hopefully we'll have some great discussions coming up. Peace and Black Power.